is the scene when Roxanne gets her first letter.
Mm.
Full on. I did not need to see her reenact getting rim rammed and having like a sexual having
It's
sex.
exactly what I felt when I was watching that.
I did not need to see her having sex with a letter.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Nerd Taku Podcast, where we watch it so you don't have to. I'm your host, Eli. With me is my co-host, Ben.
Hello, listeners. How's it going?
This week, we're reviewing the 2021 musical drama romance, Cyrano. Spoiler warnings ahead. Ben, are there spoilers?
Man, you ask it every week. Of course there are.
I have to ask my dude.
I know.
Gotta ask.
Gotta know.
Yeah. Director, Joe Wright. Main cast, Peter Dinklage, Haley Bennett, Kelvin Harrison Jr., Ben Mendelsohn. Ben, this film, walking into it, I thought about it when we watched the trailer last week. I thought it was just a generic romance story, and that's what I kind of felt like I got. What were your initial thoughts after watching this film?
I had no idea what we were getting into when we first watched this trailer. It was not clear at all. Then getting into it, I understood. Okay, now the trailer makes a little more sense. They just didn't go into detail. And it wasn't terrible, I'm going to say. I didn't hate it. And as we go through, we'll find out why. But it wasn't... My rating was higher in this than I got from the trailer, so it's still... We'll just see. We'll explain it.
Yeah, I went lower. So this film got a 6.4 out of 10. And the synopsis for Cyrano is: too self-conscious to woo Roxanne himself, wordsmith Cyrano D. Bergernek helps young Christian nab her heart through love letters.
You botched that name. See, I told you it's a hard one.
Shut up, okay.
Cyrano de Bergerac.
Okay. Yeah, I will admit it. I butchered that so dirty, but I don't speak Italian, okay? I don't speak Italian.
Neither do I. That's why I said it in the trailer thing. I'm like, I don't know what his name is.
Yeah. Let's get into this. I gave it a 5.5.
I ended with a 7.5.
There's going to be a lot of discussion today, and it's going to be very... Hopefully by the end, we are on the same page on how we both feel. So let's start with this. Let's go with plot.
0.75.
0.5. This story was not... This plot, not good. The plot is about this man who has dwarfism, Cyrano. He's in the military, and he's helping this man who just joined the army to woo the woman that he's been friends with since children, because he's too self-conscious about his dwarfism. And through it, it's poetry, like love and all that stuff. And the Cyrano is a very poetic, very educated, well-spoken person in his writing. He's a poet. And this guy, Christian, is
dumb.
Let's just say dip shit. That's the best I can go with. I'm sorry. This dude has nothing going for him. Maybe he's a little hottie. He's a little hottie with some hair, some spiky hair, like the curls, but that's all he's got for him. He's normal size. So And I didn't like the story. It just felt like I was watching a really skeleton version of Hunchback of Notre Dame. Near the end, the Duke literally was singing a song like the priest was singing Hellfire. I just got that vibe this whole time. And I'm just like, ugh, I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that they added that weird little let's let these three people you'll never meet again sing a part about their letter to unify the army. And then why does I just did not like this story. I know that it's about love and going through this traumatic thing of Cyrano going through dwarfism and trying to get the love. But what the fuck was that ending? What the fuck was that last line? Fucking what? That's how you end a story? That's how you end the plot? That's how you end it all? I love my pride. And he felt like a bowling pin. Come on. God. I was just so upset. This whole story just made me like at the end I'm like, why? Why?
See, I actually really enjoyed the plot to this story. Yes, the end is why it dropped to a 0.75. But throughout, it's Cyrano loves this girl, Roxanne, from the start. He's loved her for a very long time. But because of his condition, that he calls it, his being small, his dwarfism, he doesn't feel like he has the right to tell her how he feels. This friendship has been so strong for so long that the way he is, he doesn't feel like he can tell Roxanne his true feelings. Then Roxanne comes to him in the bakery and starts telling him about someone that she loves. And he thinks it's him the whole time. Then she says one line, I haven't been able to speak to him. And Cyrano says, about love? And she says, about anything. And that's when he realizes, oh, she's not talking about me. She's talking about someone else. And she's talking about Christian. The plot is solid. She asks Cyrano to get her acquainted with this soldier, and Cyrano knows that it's not going to work out between the two unless the words of him are put down on paper of Cyrano. So he helps this kid, Christian, by writing these letters to Roxanne. And all throughout, Roxanne is feeling these feelings because of the way this beautiful poet is put on paper. And yeah, there were a few things like how sensual the bakers were working the bread and dough while he's singing
I don't need a
about
shirtless
Roxanne.
man. I don't need a shirtless man. Come
Right?
on.
And I'm like, okay, that's very uncomfortable. I don't need to watch this, but I do need to watch this because, it's for the podcast. Then she states that she knows Cyrano inside and out, but she can't seem to figure out that it is Cyrano who's actually writing these letters. That was another thing that bothered me a bit.
Oh
I'm like, really? You know him inside and out. Even when they are talking outside her window and he's speaking for Christian, you don't know his voice. You know him inside and out, but you don't know Cyrano's voice. Are you fucking kidding me?
exactly. God.
Another thing was like a knife to Cyrano's heart when he asks Roxanne if she would still love Christian if he wasn't beautiful, and her response is she couldn't think of it. And I'm like, that is like a knife to Cyrano's heart, because He's basically asking, if it wasn't him and it was me, would you feel these same feelings? And she just didn't click in her head that that's exactly what he was asking. And the way she responded was like piercing a fucking knife through his heart. And it really hurts when Cyrano is standing there and Christian makes his way up to the balcony and gives her a kiss, and he has to watch that. He walks off because he can't handle it. It's a very interesting and intertwining plot line that this one character who loves this girl so much and wants her to be completely happy, so instead of thinking of himself, he thinks of her. And in doing so, he's going to help Christian get her. But then the Duke is in the way as well. The Duke wants to keep Roxanne to himself. And when she ends up marrying Christian instead of marrying the Duke, and he sends Christian and his unit to the front lines because of it, like there's a lot of factors that come into this that hurt and pull and give you a lot of mixed feelings about the way this plot line runs. It was enough to really keep you intrigued. I am very passionate about musicals. Don't get me wrong. This is definitely no Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis, Moulin Rouge, any of that. It's definitely not that powerful, but it was a good story. You just got to get down and dirty with the actual plot line. The plot is a guy who's self-conscious helps another person get the girl that he loves. That is the basic plot line. That is the synopsis, and that is how the plot followed. It was definitely not the best, but it was a great story. Plus, the choreography in this film, beautiful. That doesn't have a lot to do with the plot, but it's just the way that it was choreographed in a lot of the music scenes was wonderful. I actually really did enjoy this story. There's just a few things, especially that ending. That fucking ending. She finally says, I love you, and he says, I love my pride, and then dies because of the war wound 3 years ago. I would think that the war wound would affect him long before 3 years.
Exactly.
Especially in this time period. But there's just a few things in the plot that really irked me, but for the most part, the story is great.
All right. Acting.
0.75.
Wow. I think this is one of the ones I gave a 1. Why'd you give it a 0.75?
Because I could not connect with Christian.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah.
Straight up.
Fuck.
Peter Dinklage did great. Roxanne, I didn't like her character much, but the way she portrayed her was fantastic. She had a beautiful voice. She could dance. She could sing. She could do the part. It was just her character herself. The person she is was bleh. But for the most part, I enjoyed the cast. It was just Christian. He played dumb so well that connecting with him was difficult. It wasn't there. He wasn't up to par with the cast he was put together with. Peter Dinklage is an amazing actor. He's got so many parts under his belt. And I just don't feel like Kelvin could really match the other two.
No, oh my God, I changed mine to a 0.75 because you said that. That hit me more than I thought. I was like, you're right. Christian was so bland. Like you could feel like he played the part so well to not be, he didn't relate to anything. It was just like, that was a struggle. Peter Dinklage by far was the best in this film. And I loved his portrayal of Cyrano. And I have to give it props to everyone. The singing in this is phenomenal. They all came out with great voices. I didn't think there was a bad voice, personally. I felt like in the main cast, it was overall just a spectacular singing group. And it was well picked for the film. I don't know, Christian, there's no connection there. I agree with you, Roxanne. The character was annoying, but the actress did what her best. And Peter Dinklage was Cyrano. Peter Dinklage, I love Peter Dinklage. He's such a good actor. I loved him in Game of Thrones. He was so good. But yeah, no, that 0.75, you awoken something in me, dude. You awoken my trauma.
My bad. I do have to say, Peter Dinklage is definitely no Hugh Jackman or Gerard Butler, but his baritone voice really wasn't terrible. It was a lot better than I was expecting it to be.
I agree fully. I do truly agree that his voice is actually more impressive than I was expecting. Character development,
0.75.
0.5.
See, and I was literally thinking about that as we're talking, and I think I'm going to drop it to a 0.5 because really the only character that had any development was Cyrano.
Yes. Yes.
Christian had a tiny bit there at the end when he's like, "You love her, don't you?" And it's up to her to decide now. But then he runs into the firefight and goes ahead of the army up to the top of the hill and gets himself shot. So she can't choose now. He's dead.
Yeah.
Roxanne stayed constant all the way through until the very end when she's like, "I do love you." Oh, great. Well, he's dead. So that helps.
Why couldn't you tell him 3 years ago?
Why couldn't you have told him before that? Way before that. She knew. There's no way Roxanne did not know that Cyrano was the one writing those notes. No fucking way. Because every time she would talk with Christian, it was completely different than what she was expecting. Especially when she was in that poetry reading with the ladies up on that balcony, and he was not responding in any way that she wanted to hear.
Yeah.
She knew. She knew. She just refused to acknowledge.
Yeah, she needed that poetry porn. Like, seriously.
Fuck you, Roxanne. Fuck you. I'm serious. I just did not like her. But Cyrano's development, starting out as I'm not worthy of her, then a possibility of something happening, then it confirmed that she doesn't, well, somewhat confirmed that she doesn't like Cyrano that way. Then he helps Christian a lot, and then he finally admits after he's able to remember the note that he wrote to Roxanne about how he's possibly going to die during this war that they got sent to. Then he finally says, "I do love you," and my pride was too strong to admit it. But there was just so much up and down in Cyrano throughout this film because he wanted to tell her, but then he wanted to help Christian because he wanted to make Roxanne happy. He had a very powerful development, but it was only him. But it was so strong that I can justify the 0.5. I was just being generous with the 0.75.
The development in this is Cyrano. Like, there's no other development at all, like you said. And I do truly agree with you. Roxanne, the development of her not knowing, like, she's got to know that that was fucking Cyrano writing all these seductive poetry letters to her and singing to her, and she's got to know. Like, you can tell someone's voice if you know them. So her being like blind eye ignorant, no, she's just stupid. She's just so stupid if she doesn't know that was Cyrano. Roxanne was by far the most frustrating character in this. Because she even started off in the beginning, I never want to get married and all this stuff, and I want to find love. And then it's like, okay, you don't want to get married. Cool. You first dude you see, wow, he's got chiseled abs. Awesome. I don't know him. Cool. Let's go. Yeah, I want to fuck him. Straight up. But Cyrano, for the character that Peter Dinklage played, Cyrano is such a beautiful rendition of what really happens in the disability world. people have the hardest time finding that confidence in themselves. The confidence in themselves with a disability like dwarfism, autism, something like that, trying to find that confidence to talk to the girl, talk to that person, make friends. It's a challenge. And with Sereno, he held on to that love until the day he died. But he couldn't, like you said, could never admit it because he was too prideful. And even with the last words, the dumbest last words, but last word,
I love my pride.
I love my pride, then he dies. So the 0.5 is way justifiable for this because Sereno truly brought out the character that his development grew through the whole film. But that was it. No one else had development even remotely close to what he had. Sound and music.
That got a 0.75.
I gave it a 1. Why did you give it a 0.75?
There's a lot of good music in it. A lot. But not all. Some of it I just couldn't really. I was just like, okay, get on with the story. I don't want to listen to this song. It wasn't something that felt important to the story. But there is a lot of good music in it as well. Like the very beginning when Cyrano is facing off doing a duel against the guy who slaps him with his glove, right?
Yes.
I love how it started out as him just doing rhythm and rhyme, and then music and beat started getting put to it, and it just became a song as he's dueling this motherfucker, right? One thing that really brought it down, like you said while we were talking about plot, the Duke's song basically saying that he's going to either marry or force Roxanne to love him, be his lover, 100% brought out Hellfire vibes as I was listening to it.
Yes.
You said that, and I was like, dude, that's why I've got fucking Hellfire stuck in my head. Because as I was watching that, I'm like, Hellfire. I was like, really? This is just Hunchback.
Exactly. Oh,
it was catchy. It was done well. It was a catchy song, but it totally felt like Hellfire. It felt like he was just singing to the demons, telling them, hey, I'm going to make her do what I want because I'm the Duke and I deserve happiness like everybody else.
Yeah.
And you didn't like it, but I did. I really enjoyed the send-off song that they did before going into battle with the 3 random soldiers. I was like, they're explaining how hard it is in war because you have to leave those you love, and this letter is the last thing that they're going to hear from you. And it was overwhelmingly sad. They were saying, I have a wife, I have children, I have a girl, I have a father. Please tell them this and hand them this letter. I felt overwhelmed my heart was overwhelmed due to thinking of myself as being a soldier at that moment, knowing I'm going to die because I'm in the first in line going over that hill with no backup. We're all going to die. It's going to happen. I put myself in their shoes, and it really resonated with me. It was a powerful song if you think of it that way. Listen to it one more time and think of it as being part of that army and how you would feel sending your wife, your children, your father a letter saying, these are my last words because I know I'm going to die. Thinking about it now, I'm getting choked up. It resonates, dude. It does.
See, I gave music an overall 1 because yes, the music in this I found it to be actually very very spectacular. It was very joyous. Like you could feel like you could really enjoy this music. This soundtrack was probably one of the most interesting ones for a movie. Like I really did like the voices. I did like the instrumentals. That's what kept me going a little bit in this film. It really did keep me going. But like you said with those three guys, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, yeah, it is them talking about their last send off to their families in a letter. Yeah, and it's very profound. And I would agree with you there. But overall, I just felt this music was it did what it did. It's a musical. And as a musical, it brought out really great instrumentals and the singers were really good. Minus the second dude in that three-peat, like I'm writing this letter to my sis and to my wife. Like he sounded so country twang. Like I thought his voice was a little off, but that's just nitpicking at that point. And no, overall, I thought it was well delivered for a musical.
Let me tell you, the 0.75 is because of two songs. One was when Christian first gets to the Soldiers Brigade and he's talking with Cyrano about getting together with Roxanne. It just didn't fit. The second was when Cyrano is singing about Roxanne when he's about to meet her in the bakery. That scene made me so fucking uncomfortable.
Exactly.
I'm just like, no. I don't like.
Now you're
Take
making
it
me
out. I
judge
don't
my
like.
one. Now you're making me judge my one. My dude. My dude.
Sorry.
I'm judging my one now. No, that Baker scene. I'm sorry, 0.75 because that Baker scene. That Baker scene. I did not need to see that. I don't know. No, Ben. I don't like thinking about that Baker scene.
Sorry.
You're good, but cinematography.
0.75.
That got a 0.5 out of me. The reason why I gave it a 0.5, I am not a fan of this style they used. Like, so one scene that made me go, what in good heavens are you fucking doing? Is the scene when Roxanne gets her first letter. Full on. I did not need to see her reenact getting rim rammed and having like a sexual having
It's
sex.
exactly what I felt when I was watching that.
I did not need to see her having sex with a letter. Like she did this multiple times where she went close to the letter, almost licking it, looking like it's like, no, stop. This ain't porn.
She went into doggy position.
Yeah.
Doggy style position like 3 times.
And she grabbed that bed like she was getting it good. Like she was getting fucked.
Exactly.
So I did not know. That was one of the main no's. That was just bad. You could have eloquently done that scene, not showing like it's sex. Okay, where the hell when Christian started running in the streets, where the hell did all these fucking letters fall from the sky? Like, we're running letters. And then what's the shot with her coming from the curtains, like walking backwards? What her walking like hands out, the curtains like on her face. She's walking her head back. Like, what is this shot selection in this whole scene of them writing back and forth? And Chris is not even writing. This is just Cyrano serenading her. Like, no. The shot selection in this film, mind you, there were some good shots, but the ones that are bad, just to me, why? What is the direction of the cinematography? Like some of the shots felt off placed. Some of the shots, the lighting was not good. The war area, The colors, I understand they were trying to show dismal and like dreary and yeah, but also I will not I can't pass this. When Christian gets shot, what the fuck was that fall? Why did it look like he landed on a mat covered in CGI? It did not look good. This film could have done so much better with the CGI and the cinematography.
I agree. There was a lot that definitely could have been worked on, but I took into account that it was during COVID and a lot of shit was going down and you couldn't really work in the studio, couldn't work with your regular equipment. You had to do what you could with what you had. And I agree with basically everything you had said, but because of COVID, I gave it a break and I 0.75'd it. I felt like with the way the times were going and how the setting is, and I felt like they had the time setting correct as far as scenery goes. There was quite a bit, but because of COVID, I gave it a break, and that's why I 0.75'd it.
Yeah, I looked into that. I truly looked into it, but we have seen films with smaller budgets do better. And yes, I know COVID probably was a hard time trying to get things to work, but for a film that had a estimated budget of 30 million, I was hoping they could maybe get one guy in a studio and just have him fall. But it wasn't. It was bad. With the protocols that the movie studios were having, I would hope they would get a better studio shot.
Damn it. I'm going to have to drop it.
Yeah. Yeah. You dropped it. I see. Okay.
Because I did originally put it at a 0.5, and then I'm like, okay, well, what about COVID? Things happened. Not everybody was able to do what they do, but ultimately, with the budget, they could have done better. You're right. So I did put it down to a 0.5.
Directing.
I gave that a 1. The only one I gave to this.
I gave it a 0.5.
Ouch.
I can't stand by the fact that I know this is a musical, but he controlled the filler when they like I will say this. Some of the choreographed stuff that they did with when they were singing sometimes I'm just like, why can't you just keep it on the two who are singing? The director made this decision to go, we're going to add a big ensemble to make it look more lavish. But you could have like the one scene that I'm truly explaining is when Christian initially is talking to Sereno about starting to write the letters. They're singing, and then what it does is those two are leaning against the wall. Then they pan over to everyone doing sword fighting. And there's the two are still singing, but I'm like, you could have kept it there, and they could have just been like an argumentative talking, singing type. But you had to make this big grand gesture, and I just didn't like his direction with some of the ensemble like pieces. Like he had to fill the screen with something. And I'm like, you don't have to. You could have made it more simple. Simpler the better to me, because it was those two talking, and you didn't need to like bring in an ensemble cast to like fill up the screen. I just didn't like the direction he was going with it.
I disagree. Ensemble is very important in musicals. You solely focus on just this specific cast that's singing, it completely destroys your musical. It doesn't matter what musical it is. Dance and ensemble and choreography throughout, very important. That sword play, I thought went perfectly. They had the swords hitting perfectly to the beat as it was going along, and then Christian runs through the blades into this big pan out of a full dance routine. ensemble is very important to musicals. I felt like his direction in the ensembles, the choreography. The only choreography I did not like was in the bakery.
Yeah.
It was just so weird.
It was so weird, dude.
I can't express how rapey and weird that felt. It was just
But how can you give it a 1 then?
that one and because it was the only one. That is choreography. It's not full directing. The directing style of Joe Wright was he wanted to deliver a story. He delivered the story just fine. He got Peter Dinklage and Haley Bennett to match each other on screen pretty well. Kelvin needed some work, but it's just because Peter Dinklage was on screen. That's why he overshadowed the entire cast.
He did.
But overall, the directing style for this musical was done very well.
All right, I'll give you a 0.75. I cannot give it a 1. I cannot. Personally, I will not give it a 1. For me, it did not click for me, his style. But I will give it to you that ensemble is important. I misspoke. So I do agree with you there. Ensembles do help musicals. As former techies in theater, yes. Attraction.
0.75.
I gave this a 0.25. I don't know if it's me. It probably is. I, watching this, could not stay focused. Could not really focus into the story. The singing was great. That was the one thing that was keeping me going, was the singing. I really did like the voices. I did like the duets. But other than that, I felt bad for Sereno. I did. But it wasn't keeping me glued to the screen. It wasn't keeping me encapsulated. And I will say that I was watching and I probably checked how long I had left in the film about 5 times. I was that almost disinterested and disattracted by it. So that's why I'm giving the 0.25. It could not really keep my attention at all.
I get it. It had some parts that made me decide that I kind of wanted to not focus on the screen. But overall, I was pretty intrigued with the story. I was pretty intrigued with the voices. The songs pulled me in enough that with Peter Dinklage's acting, I loved the dialogue, the banter between friends, the way it was rhyming like a Shakespearean play, the songs, it was just different. It wasn't great, it wasn't spectacular, but it was enough that I didn't pay attention to the time of the screen on the screen. I was invested in this story. I even really liked De Gulch, the Duke, just his portrayal, the way he presented himself as the Duke was outstanding. The one song he performs absolutely pulled me in. Yes, I got Hellfire vibes, but it was a good song. Overall, the main thing that really affected my attraction to this was the cinematics. It wasn't great.
It was
But
bad.
yeah,
It
was
was
bad.
bad. It was bad. Like, wanted the cinematics to be better, like, so much. But like you said, that Baker scene, the reading letters, like, what are we doing? I understand you want to show that there's love in the air, but I don't need to see a shirtless man making me some bread, getting all handsy in a jar.
Right. It was interesting. I had enough attraction to or enough focus on this screen that, in my opinion, it deserves its 0.75. I stayed focused. I paid attention to the story, and Peter Dinklage just pulled you in.
Dialogue.
0.5.
Man, we matched 0.5. I will say this. This is my hated line, but I know like after talking, I get it, but it's the ending line. I love my pride. Like that line, that's the only line that I will say, what the fuck? Like I understand that you can never say it, but change it. Change the MO. Move forward and say, I love you, Rock. I love you. Just say, I love you. If you
Right?
just, or I love Roxanne, say something. But you say, I love my pride. You literally made me want to throw my controller at the TV.
Just start singing Roxanne. Roxanne.
Roxanne, Roxanne. Ugh. I don't think anything's really that rememberable. Like, it's just bad. It's flat. Nothing rememberable in a film just screams volumes on how well the dialogue was created.
I agree. It's a musical, so it's gonna be mostly based on music, but there is dialogue, and there was nothing that really popped. The only line that I thought was worth mentioning was where Roxanne is first talking to Cyrano about this guy who turns out to be Christian, and she's like, I need you to be his friend. And the first thing Peter Dinklage, because he knows he doesn't want to match these two up. So the first thing he says is, I might not like him. I started laughing at that because just the way Dinklage delivered it, I might not like him. And then they kept bantering back and forth. It was delivered so well that it made me stop and laugh and forget the rest of the conversation. I didn't end up writing down the rest of the conversation because that part made me laugh. Just the way he quickly delivered that I might not like him. It was good, but the rest of the dialogue is flat. There's really nothing. The music is great, so it gets the 0.5 through the music. It definitely doesn't get the 0.5 from the dialogue. There's just nothing there that says, hey, you deserve a 1. Do it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, nut. Scenery.
0.5.
I was generous 0.5. That was such a generous 0.5 right there. The only thing I found interesting and unique was the theater. I liked the look of it in the beginning, but after that, wow. All right, let's get 18th century, 19th century Italy and make it bland, make it and make that battlefield look so depressing. Everything was just bad. I just didn't like it. I just didn't feel like it was good. There was nothing there that keep me attracted, and I didn't like the colors. The colors were just off and very just miscommunicated through the whole story.
I am going to have to say I 100% felt like they were on a soundstage. There was nothing that convinced me that they were anywhere other than a soundstage.
Yeah.
Even when it did a full pan out of the entire brigade's army, it just looks like a backdrop with a false pan out in that castle area. It's just when Cyrano is singing to Roxanne, quoting lines to Roxanne as she's on her balcony, you can see that he takes a small corner and goes up this little staircase. It's just this tiny little, it's just the sounds, it's the stage that looks like it's from a freaking college production on stage. Just a regular stage, and they're just going to move the set pieces when the next scene comes on. Even when they're on the battlefield or in the barracks, it's just, there's nothing at all that suggests or tells me that it's outside of a soundstage. It doesn't look like real nature at all.
No.
The lighting makes it 100% look like they are on stage. I do not see natural lighting at all.
Dude, you brought me down to a 0.25.
I brought myself down to a 0.25.
Dude, when you brought up the soundstage, I was like, wow, the scene when Christian's climbing up the side of that building to the balcony, that was like 3 steps. It wasn't even really a balcony at that point. I'm like, this is embarrassing. I don't want to say this, but it came to my mind. Did they make the stage set like skewed to make it so that it looks big to Peter?
Yes. So the camera angles 100% made it look skewed. I don't know if they actually did it,
Yeah.
but the way they put the camera angles in, it made everything look way
Big.
bigger than it was.
And it's so sad.
It's like they were trying to give you the view of Peter Dinklage on a soundstage.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah.
You know what? That's another thing that goes into freaking cinematography. God damn, my cinematography's going down to a 0.25. Fuck.
Oh, yeah, dude. 0.25. Dang. I don't even want to look at my score at the end of this, my dude. Oh.
Yeah, it's dropped. Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't even want to look at this. Okay. Finally, recommend.
That one is a 0.5.
0.25.
If you like musicals and you like Peter Dinklage, this has a strong enough story to support a 0.5. It has a story that comes out as a tryst between kind of this love triangle, but not really, because they're not fighting over Roxanne. He's just pushing Christian towards her to make her happy. I feel like if you enjoy musicals, you will enjoy this. There are a few things that kind of meh it, but overall, the story and the acting pull you in enough to enjoy it. Because I was able to get through without thinking about how much longer do I have until this is done. So I think a 0.5 is pretty justifiable.
I will say with my 0.25, the cinematography, the scenery, I can't justify telling people that it's going to be worth the 2 hours and 3 minute showtime. This, yes, the plot was decent. The singing was good. But overall, if you're looking for a movie that was done on a soundstage, looks rough in the cinematography department, and really has no development, then go ahead. But I couldn't find anything but Peter Dinklage to be like good about it. For me, Peter Dinklage was the best part about this whole experience because I like him as an actor. But beyond that, the singing was the next best thing. But I wouldn't recommend this to really anyone personally.
I would recommend this to high musical fanatics. So, all right, because of that, I will have to drop it to a 0.25 because there aren't a lot of those out there.
No,
I enjoyed it as far as story goes, but that doesn't mean that anybody else will, unless they like musicals. So, 0.25.
Yeah. So, in the end of this review, I had a grand total of 4.75.
5.75 for me.
Wow, you almost dropped two whole points. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. That is a hell of a drop.
We were at 2 points and now we're down to a point. So, man, this film was an experience.
I can't believe I almost dropped an entire 2 points just by talking to you about it. Here's the thing. When I wrote this out, it was right after I watched it. So thoughts were still going on in my head.
Yeah.
That didn't fully get put onto paper. And then as we're talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Oh yeah.
Damn. All right. As we wrap up this week's episode, I'd like to talk about next week's episode. We are doing the short anime series, about 11 episodes of this anime that came out in 2018 called Terror of Residence. We both watched the trailer, and Ben, that trailer, I actually thoroughly enjoy the trailer. Like, this trailer, it's from the creators of Cowboy Bebop. It looks like it's about these two dudes who are terrorists trying to stop something. It's a lot of jumble jamble. I'm getting this terrorist vibe. They're trying to destroy like the anarchy or something. And I'm expecting an interesting experience. So I'm going to give this a 6.5, hoping for more.
I am watching this and I'm looking at the art, or I'm listening to the voices, and I'm really pulled into this trailer. They're bouncing between people riding on motorcycles. It's snowing outside. They've got like bombs in their hands. They say watch, pay attention to this, or it's gonna go boom, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? It's definitely something about terrorists. I have no idea. They're talking about nuclear weapons. I am really excited for this. That art is just really captivating, pulling me into this trailer. I am giving it a 7.
As we wrap up this week's episode of Nerd Taku Podcast, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning into this week. If you'd like to follow us, we're on Instagram and Threads at nerd_taku_podcast. We're on all major streaming platforms, and we're on YouTube under Kingdom Notes Studios. As always, guys, my name is Eli.
I'm Ben.
Thanks for joining us, guys, and have a good week.
See you next week, guys.